This is a anecdote story, whatever, about dragons. I was watching this interview by Barbara Lamb, and she's talking about the time that she met a reptilian entity in her living room and what a positive experience it was. I'm going to tell you about the time that I have seen dragons. It's kind of neat. There's been maybe 2 or 3 times, and I mean like dragons, like movie grade suckers, not reptilians in dragon disguise or what have you, real guys. And but the two most memorable times are well, the first time is when I was living in New Jersey. Actually, both times happened when I was living in New Jersey. And I worked uh, in the local little magic shop, which at the time was like dream job. And I remember the shop owner had told me, "Don't tell anybody about anything that you know how to do." This is back before I really understood about UFOs or the things that were going on in my life. You know, just don't, because that's me. Don't tell them. There was this woman who kept coming in doing for love spells, and she was spending hundreds of dollars because she really wanted a mate. And I mean, I'm not like the best person at finding a mate. In fact, I was quite terrible at it. But there's one thing I knew is what she was doing was a mistake. If you're going to do something like that, there's a way to do it. But what she was doing wasn't quite it. And so I told her, I was like, "This is how you do. This is how you do love spells." And I remember her changing her thing, and I explained to her why, because she kept wanting to call anybody, and I like that guy. I'm going to cast a love spell on him. And I told, and I explained to her why it was not only taboo, but here's why it's going wrong, and why it always ends badly. I was like, if you want, somebody to come to you, there's a way you call them without disrupting life, and you ask somebody that's going to be good for you, and keep in mind that you have to be good for them. Blah 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 blah. And then she was going to get all of her stuff charged, and she was having a hard time. She wanted her altar and magical implements charged. And I told her, I'll do it. I'll show you how to do it, though, because you need to learn how to do it yourself. And so we went out to the local park. We were living in Bayonne, New Jersey, and there, in all of Bayonne, really freaking creepy, there was one whole park that had grass. And we went to that park, and we found this nice little knoll hill that she told me was the Wicca Hill that a lot of the local pagans would do their rituals on. And I laid out her stuff, and I said, "All right, here's how you do your stuff." And I started charging her stuff and having her charge her own stuff. And it was like all of a sudden the clouds did this swoop, and this wind picked up just out of the blue, and it caught our attention, and we looked up, and there in the sky, it was young. You could tell it was young, maybe and not a child, more like a early young adult, late adolescent. And it was one of those Chinese looking sky dragons that now people are like, "They're real." Well, yeah, I know they're real. And something about what we're doing had caught its attention. And it was just peeking through the clouds, seeing what had caught its attention, because something about the energy I was doing there caught its attention. I don't know what I did right or wrong. And then I looked up, it looked at me, I looked at it, and then it faded away. And I remember her going, oh my gosh," and being completely thrilled, that this had happened. And I was just thrilled that I wasn't the only one that saw it. The dragon was neat because what was really cool is, well, I hadn't seen one to that level before, and he was beautiful. And it's just really cool when you're faced with a really neat phenomenon like that.
Tell us about Ivan.
Ivans. During Vietnam, soldiers were having trouble shooting the enemy. So, much like Pavlov's dog, the government figured out that if you create a stimulus response, they don't think about it, so they don't have all these moral conundrums about killing their fellow man, which is inherently a quote unquote evil act. So, they developed these pop up targets that are 3 foot tall, wearing Russian clothing with a big red star on their forehead and holding an AK-47. And all through your training, this is ingrained that this target pops up, you shoot it, it falls down. Which completely disassociates the act from killing something or shooting your fellow man. It's a target that pops up, you shoot it, and it falls down. If you want to know more, Google it.
The second time was at my apartment. Um, this is about, I don't know, 2000, 2001. And I was on the phone with the person that I thought was my friend. And I remember when I was on the phone with her, when I would talk to her, I would end up spending a good portion of my conversations talking about stuff like, theories of metaphysics, and I don't know, something about talking to her, the information would just come out, and I would end up giving these long lectures. And I'm pacing back and forth, and I'm not even sure what I was teaching her about that night. Actually, the kids were asleep in their room. I'm in Bayonne, New Jersey, which was like outside of Jersey City, and I lived in this one bedroom piece of crap apartment that everybody swore to me was prime property, and I can't say that it was prime property because I was paying all this money for this piece of crap apartment, sleeping on the couch so the kids can have a bedroom. And I remember often comparing to what I grew up with in, say, Florida in rural, and it was like, this is prime property. Meanwhile, poor people where I grew up were living on an acre or 2 acres, and this is prime property. This is crap. I'm talking to this person and giving her the lecture, and I'm pacing back and forth because I pace when I'm on the phone. There was the front door, and then from the front door, you could either go straight into the living room, it's how small it was, or take a left and go into the tiny kitchen, and past the tiny kitchen was the only bedroom, and then there was a bathroom, and that's all the place had. There was a little door into the kitchen. And so I'm pacing back and forth, and I pace and I walk, and I'm lecturing and I'm lecturing. And then one day I paced a little, not one day, but 1 minute, I paced a little further than usual, and was my habit as a mother, I'd look back towards the back. You just kind of instinctively check the area because your kids are back there. And I guess he got secure or really got into the conversation because he was eavesdropping like a crazy man. But there was he was about the size of a car dragon in my kitchen, which had a little table because I didn't have a dining room, with his head down, just listening intently. He was completely enjoying what I was talking about. He absolutely loved the conversation. And I stopped in the doorway, and I started to sputter. And I think he realized, because because he had just completely, his head snapped up. He looked at me. I looked at him, and he winked out of sight. He was gone. Well, at first I was more amazed that there had been this dragon eavesdropping on my phone conversation. I was like, there was a dragon in my dining room. What was it doing there? Oh my gosh! And I remember the thing I had noticed the most, because it's the first thing you're doing, you look where your kids are, is because he was laying with his head in my direction towards the living room. and its tail was so long that it was just curled around, and it was going into the kid's bedroom. And I was like, there was a dragon in my kitchen. And I remember what an odd coloration. When we color dragons, we think, these beautiful colors. And he was this almost like a giraffe with these bold lines around it, and he was purple and orange. And I don't know how young he was. If he had, I mean, sure, I mean, there's no getting around it. It's like, was he sentient? I'll never know. It would be really cool to see him again. But yeah, I saw not a cloud dragon, but this other type of dragon was eavesdropping on my conversation. So, and you could say, well, I was hallucinating. And it's like, no, I'm pretty sure I wasn't hallucinating, because people are getting photos of things now because our cameras have improved. And uh, all this evidence is coming to light, and you don't have to believe me if you don't want to, but there was a dragon eavesdropping on my phone conversation. That isn't the only thing that ever eavesdropped on my phone conversation. Um, but this cute little purple and orange dragon is definitely one of the most memorable, whatever. Remember him the most, because it was just a cute moment.